when you think of Call of Duty Zombies Moon, you think of various things. You might think about the gravity, Area 51, the excavators, maybe even the MPD, and more importantly, of course, the Easter egg. But one thing we should take into consideration is how safe can a map on the moon actually be? And of course, you know we've got to figure that out. So today we are diving deep into the depths of the moon to find out exactly how safe our crewmates are being kept when they are traversing this lovely map. Welcome to Safety Check. But just before we get into the actual safety check itself, I just want to say a massive thank you for everyone that tuned in for the last safety check of Shangri-La, and thank you to all the new subscribers and the old subscribers as well. And I just want to say we are aiming to get to 2K subscribers as our next goal. So if you do enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and there will be plenty more coming your way. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, we've got to do Area 51 pretty quick here because obviously you know what this place is like, especially since I'm not on the original round as well. But anyway, let's do this. First off, these massive vehicles, massive tankers, just like these ones over here. As you can see, they've got flammable signs on, which means they could explode. We don't need that at all. That could be very dangerous. So first things first, we're going to have to put vehicles down as a medium tier risk. And it's going to have to get a 50 because if they do explode, that is very hazardous. Next up on Area 51 actually relates to the floor near the vehicles. Look at this. What do you think this is? It's some sort of fuel. Fuel, as you know, is not very good for the human body. So to have it just laying around on the floor means it's spilled, which means it's dangerous. So we are going to give chemical hazards a rating of 60. Next up in the Area 51 area, and this actually applies to the moon itself as well, is the storage situation of this map. I mean, look at that. Who stacked that like that? That's not how you should store stuff. I mean, this is a perfect example of why. Look, it's just completely fallen over. I mean, these things are on wheels, can I just say, which means they could just roll off and fall onto somebody and squish you. That would not be good. And there's more storage issues on top of the moon as well, but I don't want to take too much of your time up. So we're just going to say storage is going to be a miscellaneous category issue, and it's going to get a 70. And last but not least, we have one final issue on the Area 51 part of the map, which we cannot talk about on the moon because it is the water. And I know it's a very little bit of water, but in theory, you could drown in this. What would happen, right, if this shelving fell on you, trapped you face down in the water, and you couldn't get up and you could not lift your head up because you were trapped? You would drown. So I'm taking that as a risk, and it's going to get a 30. Okay, since we've done this area, let's get out of here, shall we? Leave this zombie-ridden area behind. Look how those bodies just jump, dude. That's quite funny. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. Let's go to the main bulk of the map. Okay, so that was a bit chaotic, but now we're going to actually try and go in order from low tier risks to high tier risks. And the first low tier risk in the moon itself is tripping hazards. Yes, there is plenty around that could cause tripping hazards on this map. I mean, there's a cable at my feet right here, you know? That's not covered up by anything. You could trip over that. Not good stuff. You've also got loose panels just taken off the floor. I mean, you could trip over the panel itself. You could fall in here and trip on that. That wouldn't be good. And it doesn't get any better. We got massive, I want to say tubing and metal panels that you could trip over. Never good. Even some rope you could trip over there. And like I said, this is just everywhere. I mean, look, more cables, more panels, and even in the labs you have more cables, and you even have like books and chalkboards on the floor and these like map schematic things. You could trip over all of these and they could be hazardous. So tripping hazards is going to get an overall ranking of 70 out of 100. All right, the next one, which you can tell by the state of this place, is the hygiene. I mean, look at the state of the floor. It doesn't look good, and it doesn't get any better the further you go up these stairs. I mean, look at the blood everywhere on these stairs. This is literally nearly a puddle at this point, let's be honest. It's all over the walls. That isn't good. And considering they're trying to grow plants and stuff in here, the state of it everywhere, man, look at it. It's not good. There's too much blood on this map. So we are going to put hygiene in, and it is going to get a rating of 75 out of 100. All right, so this next one isn't as bad, but it is still a hazard, and that is equipment. Like these drills, They have just been left out in the open. Anyone can get to these and they can do some damage to themselves. That ain't good. I mean, for example, there's loads of tools that are left everywhere. That can be classed as equipment. More tools just left on the floor. And there's even shovels just left on the side here. What's like, so the tools and the shovels aren't as bad. It's still not great. And that's why it is going to be classed as a hazard, but it is only going to get an 85 out of 100. Now on to our final low tier risk of this map. And we're going to go to the labs for this one. Because as you can see, there's broken equipment on the lab table, which is not good. And it doesn't stop there, because look at the floor. We've got loads of shards all over the floor here. That could really, really cause some issues. And broken glass is sharp. Imagine if this like pierced your suit or something, and then you had a hole in your suit. That could be a whole nother problem in itself. So it is pretty important that that gets cleaned up. And the fact that it hasn't is a risk. So it is going to get a 75 out of 100. Okay, that is all of the low tier risks. And now we move on to the medium tier risks. Now I know we have already identified chemical hazards and vehicles as 2 risks on this map, but one I didn't think would be an issue is the building stability. But then you see little sections like this. This has broken apart and collapsed. Whilst not major, imagine if someone was standing under this. You'd be crushed. I mean, this is what they're meant to look like, right? And then you got sections like this that have just completely collapsed. And it's not great. And you can see like these ones are basically ready to fall over and crush someone. So it's something that needs to be addressed pretty quick. And whilst it's not severe, obviously it is a medium tier risk, which means it can't get any higher than a 60. So I am going to give it a 60 out of 100. Now the next one on the list, you probably guessed it. And you probably guessed it a long time ago, but I'm only just mentioning it now. And if I take a good old step out here and then, you know, take my mask off, I can't breathe. I'm starting to suffocate. I need to get my mask back on, otherwise I will die. Suffocation due to no oxygen isn't great, and it's definitely a safety risk. Now, I know we're on the moon. Of course, there's no oxygen, so you've kind of got to expect it, but you can't just ignore it. But because we have obviously all the domes that keep us safe and have oxygen in them, and we also have the suits, it's not going to get a really low mark, but it is still going to get a 40 out of 100. Moving on to our next safety hazard in a medium tier risk. Now this one is maybe surprising, maybe not, who knows, but it is electrocution. And if you disagree, then just look at all the electric bolts just hitting the bottom of the teleporter here. What if you got caught in one of those? And before you say, oh, you can't get caught in one of those, you can jump down from here, and specifically this angle here. So you could, if you timed it right, go through an electric charge, which would electrocute you. And on top of this, this looks like it's ready to just spit out electricity, which could potentially zap you, which wouldn't be good. So whilst it isn't all around dangerous, it is definitely going to have to be counted, and it is going to get an overall rating of 60 out of 100. So we have one final medium tier risk that we need to address. And the final medium tier risk that we're going to talk about here is actually falling. Now you might be thinking, Kian, we're on the moon. There's no gravity. How are you going to fall? Or more, if you did fall, surely you'd be okay. There's 0 gravity, so you just float down. Well, this safety sign would say otherwise. And we all know what happens if we jump down here. We've all done it in our zombies game before. And what happens when you jump down there? You die. So it does have to be a safety risk. And because falling is a medium tier risk, I cannot give this any higher than a 60 out of 100. But that is the final medium tier risk for this map. But we're not done yet. Now, obviously, we've discussed the potential to drown in Area 51. So we do have one high tier risk, but we do also have some miscellaneous tier risks. And for a matter of fact, we have 5 of them. And for this first one, I know we've definitely all done this, but it's these things. When you just run through here and you accidentally get caught on this and it didn't activate. So I'm okay. Oh no, it did. But it does this. It's our good old bounce pads. Now this thing just flings you into the air, and you have to be very precise with where you land, otherwise you could die, like I nearly did there. You could absolutely break your legs if you don't land on one of these pads. And to be honest, I'm surprised you don't, because, you know, that's still quite a high jump. But it does have to be put on there. And because it can cause so much damage, it is going to get an overall rating of 30 out of 100. Now, we've spoken about falling, and we've spoken about how the gravity should save us. But let's be honest, the gravity could also be a risk. I mean, you take one wrong bounce or one wrong jump, and you could end up floating away. Like that guy just did. That was a good demonstration, dude. But also, for example, if you ran through here and just jumped, I nearly bashed my head on that thing, and that could break my mask. That could knock me out. See, this guy's showing perfectly what's wrong. He's just stuck in the air now. He's giving me a perfectly good visual demonstration. you need a pay rise. But that just proved my point more than anything, that gravity could be an issue. And because of that, it is going to get a 50 out of 100. Our third miscellaneous category was actually storage, which we have spoken about. So we're going to skip that one quickly, as we already know the score it got. And we're going to move on to our fourth miscellaneous category, which I know you guys have all been waiting to see. And it's, of course, these bad boy excavators. We all know how much damage these cause. I mean, they take away your oxygen, and obviously these massive big old blades can kill you. And now I'm going to skip to Kian in the future, having played through all the rounds, to actually get to see these excavators in action. Over to you, Kian from the future. Thank you, Kian from the past. As you can see, the excavator has hit the dome. The biodome is not looking good right now. We cannot breathe anymore in here. What is going to happen to the plants is my concern. I'm going to put my helmet back on quickly before anything does go wrong. As you can see, there's no fixing this hole. We might be able to get the excavator out, but that's it. Back to you, Kian from the past. Thank you, Kian from the future. Now, anyway, as we were saying, excavators obviously can cause a lot of harm. So that's why they have been put down as an overall rating of 30 out of 100. And the only reason they didn't get lower was because you can avoid them, because you get plenty of warning. And whilst they are lethal, they can be shut down. So that is why it got a 30 and not lower. But that does lead us to our last safety hazard of the map. Now, if you said big old space triangle, then you were correct. Because obviously I'm talking about the MPD itself. Now to some, this might just look like a big old triangle surrounded by some cool lightning, but it's not just that. We all know that this thing was created by the corrupted keepers, or the apothecaries. And if you know even a little bit of zombies lore, you'll know that Richtofen accidentally touched this once. And I'm saying only touched it. And he started hearing voices of corruption in his head. So that potentially means it's going to drive you insane just from touching it. And if you also know a little bit more zombies lore, you should know that if you get stuck in there, you have the ability to actually harness the power of the Dark Ether, which is a major safety hazard. Because let's be honest, we've all opened that pyramid up and we all know what Samantha does. She go a bit crazy. I mean, understandable, she was locked in a triangle, but you know what I mean. So the MPD is going to be our final miscellaneous category risk, and it is going to get a 5 out of 100 because this thing is as lethal as risks can get. But just because we've had all this doom and gloom doesn't mean that there isn't any... Hello? But there isn't any safety features on this map. And for a matter of fact, there's quite a few. The first one obviously being the suit that I'm wearing. Like we said earlier, I can't breathe without it, so I need it. This thing keeps me safe when I don't have oxygen levels, so it can be seen as a form of PPE. On top of this, for some strange reason, and I don't know why, we actually have gas masks on the moon as well. I don't know when you're going to use that, but if you need to, they're there, I guess. So we are going to get a +5 for PPE. Next up on the safety sides is actually all the railings that are in place. They are in perfect condition and they are everywhere, apart from a couple of areas that you can fall off on the ends there, but we'll give them a pass because the amount of safety rails there actually are is pretty good, I'd say. So safety rails is also going to get a +5. And going back to what we were speaking about earlier when we were talking about falling down here, we were talking about the safety sign warning you that you could fall. On top of this, there are a variety of other safety signs around the map warning you about the potential dangers, like these ones here warning you of potential electric shocks, or this one here warning you about potential chemical hazards. So there are safety signs around the map to warn you about potential hazards, and that is why it's going to get a +5 for safety sign. And then we do have one final safety feature, and it's actually this little guy, the hacker. Now, all I'm saying is, whilst you won't be able to breathe outside, you can use this guy to override the systems on Moon. Imagine if one of these doors was locked and you had to get out in an emergency and you couldn't. Well, you can use the hacker to unlock these doors and you're safe. That's a pretty good tool in my opinion. And whilst I don't think I can give it a full 5 points because you obviously cannot breathe if you have this on, which is a major downfall, it is still very handy. So it is going to get a 2.5. Well, that is all of the safety risks and safety features for this map. So just to recap, we have tripping hazards with a rating of 70, hygiene with a rating of 75, equipment with a rating of 85, shrapnel with a rating of 75, chemical hazards with a rating of 60, vehicles with a rating of 50, building stability with a rating of 60, suffocation with a rating of 40, falling with a rating of 60, electrocution with a rating of 60, 40, drowning with a rating of 30, bounce pads with a rating of 30, gravity with a rating of 50, storage with a rating of 70, excavators with a rating of 30, and the MPD with a rating of 5. Now, if we put all these together, we actually get an overall rating of 53, but we do have to take a few things into consideration. The first being that we have over 10 hazards. With a matter of fact, we have 16 hazards in total. So that goes over our plus 10 limit, which gives the map a -5. But on the other hand, we do have 4 safety features. That being PPE, safety signs, railings, and equipment, which does give us a plus 17.5. So when you add all of these up together, you actually end up with a rating of 65.5 out of 100. Not bad for a map with 16 risks. And we can actually have a look at what that does in terms of ranking on our overall tier list. It actually puts it just above Kino de Toten in the needs work category, with it only actually being 0.5 of a point off Nacta and Toten's overall ranking. So overall, not terrible. Its safety features definitely did save it though. But with that being said, that is the end of the video for today. As always, I hope you have enjoyed. And also, I want you guys to tell me what the most unexpected risk was on this map that I picked out. And I'd also like to say this took me quite a while to do because there are plenty of factors to have to consider when ranking this map. So if I did miss anything, let me know which features you think I did miss. Apart from that, I hope you are all ready to move on to Black Ops 2 now that we have finished our Black Ops 1 maps, where we will next be ranking Transit. And all I'm going to say is that's going to be a safe map, I can tell you now. But having said that, that is the end of the video. I hope you have enjoyed. If you have, then like I said earlier in the video, I am trying to hit 2K subscribers, so subscribe for more content. And I leave you on the final message, like we now do on every safety check, which is stay safe slaying.